everybody, it's Julie. Welcome back to my channel. I'm excited to be here with another Top 5 Wednesday, and this topic is one that was difficult for me. This is my top 5 favorite villains. When I was thinking about my top 5 villains, I was torn between people that like terrified me and people that I loved to hate or that were still somewhat endearing. So here's my list. Again, I think that I only have like one of these books in physical copy here to show you. I do own all of these books. Some of them are on my e-reader, some of them are in storage, but let's jump right into them. So the first villain that I wanted to talk about was President Snow, and the reason that President Snow was so terrifying to me was that anytime you use psychological torture and use somebody's family against them, that terrifies me. I'm so close to my family. So the thought of any of my sisters or my parents or people that I love being used as motivation to keep me in line is terrifying. And he is just such a cold, calculated, crazy villain. I think one of the things that made him so scary was that he was so like Umbridge-esque in that he was human, he was flawed, but he believed that he was doing what was best and what he wanted to do, and his best and what he thought was right was just terrifying. So for that reason, I've got to give it to Snow. Next up, I picked one from The Lord of the Rings, and you could have so many from The Lord of the Rings. There's definitely no lack of powers of evil, but I went with Sauron. And Sauron and Saruman used to get very, very confused for me. So in case you're not familiar with the Lord of the Rings books or movies, which where are you living? Sauron is the big evil eye in the sky that sees all and knows all and that you cannot hide from. Sauron's just the epitome of evil. And the fact that you couldn't hide from him, that is he gender specific? I feel like he is, right? Anytime that you have a big dark evil that's overpowering and overshadowing, and all the other lesser evils that were so pretty evil in that book were descendant from him. And just the supremeness of his corruptness and evil and all the vile things that came out of that initial ball of hatred. So terrifying. Terrifying. Anytime that I swept over or I thought he was going to find Sam and Frodo, or the power started to call or the ring started to call, just terrified me. Absolutely terrified me. And I just don't think that you can have like a broader, more far-reaching evil than that. Just scary. So my third one and my last in like the fantasy realm is Captain Hook. And I think that there's something still endearing about him, that he's not like a pure evil for me. If you look at the cartoon version of Peter Pan, where he still engages in sword fight and play, and he still wants that engagement with Peter and that teasing back and forth, that he almost just still wants to belong to that tribe of boys. And he just seems like the adult version of a lost boy who never fit in. Like he would be the bullied lost boy that went out and aged and then came back and was just angry about it. But there's something about him, just the epitome of adultness trying to steal the innocence and joy of youth, that is still frightening. So he's definitely still the villain, but there's something that you still feel bad for in him. So he's the one villain that I put in this whole list that you still kind of feel for. You can see where things probably went wrong for him, and it just kind of hurts your heart. So I have admitted before, but I have not actually read this book yet. It's on my nightstand. I plan to do that soon. But in terms of the movie versions, I think that there's something that's still very endearing and warming about him, that you still don't root for him, but you kind of understand his motivations and your heart kind of hurts for whatever pain he's endured in the past. So he's my kind of like redeeming villain, but I love Hook. And then the next two are more reality-based, but still fiction, but reality-based. So these characters are so terrifying because they're so human, and the likelihood that these people exist and the fact that they do exist in the world makes them so scary. So the first one that I picked is from one of my favorite classics, and that is East of Eden by John Steinbeck, and I don't have that physical copy with me, again, in storage, but the one that I picked was Kathy Ames, and if you've read that book, Kathy is terrifying. She's just a crazy lady. She's a sexual sadist. She uses sex over men in like terrifying ways, and she's cruel to her lovers, like very cruel, and she's just warped and twisted and just not there. She gets pregnant and tries to give herself like an at-home abortion with knitting needles and fails, and then is just absolutely evil to her children who she didn't successfully abort. I mean, the woman is just insane. And one of the things that definitely stuck out in that book to me was just how real and visceral and crazy but believable Kathy was. I mean, there's women out there, there's sick, twisted individuals out there that behave like that. She is definitely a very, very twisted character. And if you've not read East of Eden, you should. It's a classic for a reason, and it's very good. I like it. And then the last one on my list is another super scary, terrifying sexual sadist. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Stieg Larsson. There's plenty of villains in that book, but the one that was most terrifying to me was definitely Niels Bergman. I'm gonna get that name wrong. Lisbeth Salander is the main character of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and the preceding books, and Bergman, Nils, is her guardian. He's her legal guardian. So he's in charge of all of her money, essentially all of her life, all of her decisions. She really can't do anything without his permission. And he's the epitome of evil. He truly, truly is. He's a sick, sadistic, twisted man. If you've not read the books, go read them. But he lords over her all things. So if she wants money or if she wants anything, he makes her perform sexual favors for him, and they are dark and twisted and painful and sadistic and not consensual and absolutely hateful, terrifying. What made him so horrible was the violence in his actions, the just twisted, warped power that he held over her, and the books were so well written that you felt like you were there when these things were happening, and it was absolutely horrifying. And what made him such a true villain is that that exists, and that is so scary to you because you know things like that can and do happen. Definitely not a redeemable character, nothing redeeming about him. So if you're gonna go with top 5 villains, I don't know about favorite, but they are definitely some of the scariest, darkest, cruelest, most demented villains that I've experienced. So The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, East of Eden, The Lord of the Rings, Captain Hook, Peter Pan, and also President Snow. But those are my top 5 villains. I'd love to know what yours would be. Go ahead and leave them down below in the comments. Let's talk about them. How did you feel about these villains? If you liked this video, give me a big thumbs up, click subscribe, and I will see all of you in my next video.